The auction hall smelled like rust and old dreams. Danny Mercer stood in the back row, his hands deep in the pockets of his worn jacket. Around him, salvage dealers and scrap merchants talked in low voices. They pointed at the holographic displays that showed each item up for sale. Most of the items were junk, burned-out freighters, broken mining equipment, ships that would cost more to fix than they would ever be worth. Danny had been in the salvage business for 12 years. He knew junk when he saw it, but he also knew that sometimes, buried in the junk, there was treasure. That was why he kept coming to these auctions. That was why he kept hopping. The auctioneer, a fat man with a loud voice, moved through the lots quickly. Lot 44 sold for 200 credits. Lot 45 went for 50. Lot 46 found no buyers at all. Then came Lot 47. The holographic display flickered and showed an old ship. It was an armored transport, Terran military design, at least 50 years old. The hull was covered in burn marks and dents. The armor plating had turned brown with corrosion. One of the engine pods hung at a strange angle, clearly damaged beyond simple repair. The auctioneer laughed. "Ladies, and I present the rusty nail. Starting bid is $7. Do I have $7? Nobody moved. Nobody raised their hand. The other dealers looked at the ship and shook their heads. It was worthless. Everyone could see that. But Danny could not look away. There was something about the ship, something in the way it sat there on the display, battered but unbroken. It had survived something terrible. He could see that in every scar on its hull. This ship had a story. Danny raised his hand. The auctioneer blinked. $7 from the gentleman in the back. Do I have 8? Silence. Nobody else wanted it. Sold for $7. Danny walked to the payment counter and handed over the money. $7, the cost of a cheap meal. The other dealers watched him and whispered to each other. They thought he was crazy. Maybe he was. He took the shuttle out to the salvage yard where they had parked his new purchase. The rusty nail looked even worse in person. Up close, he could see how deep the damage went. The armor was not just corroded on the surface. It had been hit by weapons fire, probably during the old war with the... This ship had seen battle. His business partner was waiting for him when he arrived. Lisa Vance was a tall woman with sharp eyes and no patience for foolishness. She had been Danny's partner for 8 years. She handled the business side of things while he handled the ships. They made a good team. Lisa looked at the rusty nail. Then she looked at Danny. Her expression said everything. $7, Danny said before she could speak. $7 too many, Lisa replied. What are you going to do with this thing? It would cost us 10,000 credits just to make it fly. The scrap value is maybe 200. You lost money on this deal, Danny. I know. He walked toward the ship's main airlock, but I want to look inside. Lisa followed him, still complaining. They entered through the airlock and found themselves in a narrow corridor. The lights were dead, so Danny used his flashlight. The interior was dusty and cold. Nothing had been inside this ship for a very long time. They walked through the crew quarters, the small medical bay, the tiny galley where soldiers had once eaten their meals. Everything was standard military design. Nothing special, nothing valuable. But something felt wrong. Danny stopped in the corridor outside the engine room. He looked at the wall on his left, then turned and looked at the wall on his right. He took out his measuring tool and checked the distance between the walls. Then he went outside and measured the exterior of the ship. The numbers did not match. There is extra space, he said quietly. About 2 meters of it, hidden between the walls. Lisa's eyes went wide. A smuggling compartment. Maybe, or something else. Danny knocked on the wall. It sounded solid, but that meant nothing. Military engineers were good at hiding things. They searched for an hour but found no way to open the hidden space. Finally, tired and frustrated, they gave up for the night. Danny locked the ship and went home to his small apartment on the station. He could not sleep. His mind kept returning to the rusty nail. What was hidden inside those walls? Why had the military built a secret compartment in an armored transport? What had this ship been carrying 50 years ago? The knock on his door came at 3 in the morning. Danny opened the door and found 3 men standing in the hallway. They wore expensive suits that did not fit with the rough neighborhood where Danny lived. Their faces were hard and cold. 2 of them had their hands inside their jackets, near where guns would be. The man in front smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Good evening, Mr. Mercer. We understand you purchased a ship today, an old military transport called the Rusty Nail." Danny said nothing. He kept his hand near the door panel, ready to slam it shut. "We represent certain parties who are very interested in that ship. We are prepared to offer you 50,000 credits for it, right now, cash, no questions asked." 50,000 credits. More money than Danny had ever seen at one time. More than enough to pay off his debts and start fresh somewhere else. But the offer was too good. Way too good for a worthless old ship. That meant the ship was not worthless at all. "No," Danny said. The man's smile disappeared. "Think carefully, Mr. Mercer. This is a very generous offer. You will not get a better one." I said no. The 3 men looked at each other. Something passed between them, some silent communication that Danny could not read. Then the leader nodded slowly. "Very well, we will give you some time to reconsider. But do not take too long, Mr. Mercer. Our patience has limits." They turned and walked away. Danny closed the door and leaned against it, his heart beating fast. Who were those men? How did they know about the ship? What was inside the rusty nail that was worth 50,000 credits? He tried to call Lisa to warn her. She did not answer. He tried again, nothing. By morning, Danny knew something was very wrong. He went to Lisa's apartment and found the door broken open. Inside, furniture was knocked over and there were signs of a struggle, but Lisa was gone. On the floor, he found a single playing card, the Ace of Spades, with a crimson veil drawn across it in blood-red ink. Danny knew that symbol. Everyone did. It was the mark of the Crimson Veil Syndicate, the most dangerous criminal organization in the galaxy. His $7 ship had just become the most expensive purchase of his life. Danny sat alone in his apartment, staring at the crimson playing card in his hands. The Crimson Veil Syndicate. Of all the criminal organizations in the galaxy, they were the worst. They dealt in weapons, drugs, and slaves. They killed without mercy and without hesitation. And now they had Lisa. His communicator beeped. Unknown caller. Danny almost ignored it, but something made him answer. A woman's voice came through the speaker. It was calm and professional with no emotion at all. "Danny Mercer, do not speak, just listen. My name is Cole. I know about your ship. I know about your partner. And I know why the Crimson Veil Syndicate wants the Rusty Nail so badly." Danny gripped the communicator. "Who are you? How do you know all this?" "I told you not to speak." There was a pause. "But since you asked, I used to work for Terran Intelligence. Now I work for myself. I have been tracking the Syndicate for years. Your purchase of the Rusty Nail was unexpected. It has created an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" "To stop them and to save your friend." Another pause. "Meet me at Docking Bay 7 in 1 hour. Come alone. If I see anyone following you, I will disappear and your partner will die." The call ended. Danny had no reason to trust this woman. She could be working for the Syndicate. This could be a trap, but he had no other options. Lisa was in danger because of him, because of his stupid decision to buy a ship he did not need. He had to do something. He went to Docking Bay 7. Cole was waiting for him. She was younger than he expected, maybe 30 years old, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore plain clothes and carried no visible weapons, but Danny could tell she was dangerous. She moved like a predator, always aware of her surroundings. "Follow me," she said. "We will talk on my ship." Her ship was small but fast, a courier vessel designed for speed rather than combat. Inside, the walls were covered with screens showing data and images. Danny saw photographs of men and women, maps of star systems, documents in languages he could not read. This woman had been doing research for a long time. Sat down and pointed to a chair. Danny sat. "What do you know about the Terran War?" she asked. Danny shrugged. "What everyone knows. It started 50 years ago. We fought for 10 years. We won, but barely. A lot of people died." "Correct, but there are things the public was never told." Touched a screen and an image appeared. It showed a fleet of ships, hundreds of them, all identical. They looked like warships, but there was something strange about them. No windows, no markings, no signs of life. "This is Project," said. During the war, the Terran military built a secret fleet of 300 automated warships. No crew, no pilots, just machines controlled by a central computer. They were meant to be a last resort. If humanity was losing the war, these ships would activate and fight without mercy, without fear, without stopping. Danny stared at the image. 300 warships. That was enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. "The war ended before was ever used," continued. "The fleet was hidden in the asteroid fields of Sigma Draconis, powered down and waiting. The location was kept secret, known only to a handful of high-ranking officers. Everyone assumed the secret died with them." "But it did not," Danny said. "No, the location codes were stored on a data chip and given to a courier ship for transport to a secure facility. That ship was the Rusty Nail." Eyes met his. "The ship never arrived. It disappeared during a battle and was presumed destroyed. The military searched for years but found nothing. Eventually, they gave up." Danny felt cold. "The hidden compartment, that is where the codes are." "Yes, and the Crimson Veil Syndicate has been searching for that ship for 20 years. Their leader, a man named Victor Hale, believes that whoever controls the fleet will control the galaxy. He is right. Those 300 ships are still out there, waiting. If Victor gets those codes, nothing will be able to stop him." "How did they find out about the Rusty Nail, about the codes?" Looked away. For the first time, her professional mask slipped. Danny saw something underneath it. Guilt, pain. "Because I told them," she said quietly. "Years ago, before I understood what it meant. I was young and stupid. I sold information to the highest bidder. I did not know what Victor planned to do with it." She looked back at him. "Your partner was taken because of me. This is my fault, and I intend to fix it." Danny wanted to be angry. Part of him was angry, but he could see the truth in her eyes. She regretted what she had done. She was trying to make it right. "How do we save Lisa?" he asked. "First, we need to find the codes before the Syndicate does. If we control the codes, we control the situation. We can use them as leverage to get your partner back." "And then what? Hand over a fleet of killer robots to criminals?" Shook her head. "No, we give them codes that do not work, or codes that will destroy the fleet instead of activating it. I can modify the data once we find it. Victor will never know the difference until it is too late." It was a dangerous plan. So many things could go wrong, but it was the only plan they had. "How long do we have?" Danny asked. "The Syndicate gave you time to reconsider their offer. That gives us maybe 72 hours before they lose patience and kill your partner." Stood up. "We need to move fast. Take me to the Rusty Nail." They flew back to Danny's salvage yard. The old ship sat there in the darkness, silent and waiting. In the starlight, the Rusty Nail almost looked majestic. A survivor from another age, carrying secrets that could change the future of humanity. Danny led inside. She pulled out scanning equipment and began searching the walls, looking for the hidden compartment they knew was there. Her instruments detected the empty space immediately, but finding a way to open it was harder. "Military engineers designed this," muttered. "They did not want anyone to find it." "Then how do we get inside?" did not answer. She kept scanning, kept searching, kept trying different approaches. Hours passed. Danny helped when he could, but mostly he just watched and worried about Lisa. Finally, deep in the engine room, found something. A panel that looked like all the others but was not. Underneath it was a small slot, just big enough for a data chip. "There," she said. "That is the access point, but it needs a key. A specific data chip with the right encryption. Without it, we cannot open the vault." Danny's heart sank. After all this, they were stopped by a locked door. The key could be anywhere in the galaxy. It could have been destroyed 50 years ago. Then he remembered something. His father, a man he had barely known, who had died when Danny was just a boy. A military engineer who had worked on secret projects during the war. Among the few things Danny had inherited was an old data chip that he had never been able to read. He had kept it all these years, not knowing why. Just a connection to a father he could not remember. Danny reached into his pocket and pulled out the chip. His hands were shaking. "Try this," he said. Looked at him with surprise, but she took the chip and inserted it into the slot. The wall clicked. Something hummed deep inside the metal, and slowly, silently, a hidden door began to open. Whatever was inside, they were about to find out. The hidden door slid open with a soft hiss. Behind it was a small room, no bigger than a closet. The walls were made of dark metal, thick and heavy, designed to survive almost anything. In the center of the room sat a single object, a sealed container made of titanium, about the size of a coffin. Danny stepped inside. The air was cold and stale, untouched for 50 years. Their footsteps echoed in the tiny space. "This is it," whispered, "the vault." She knelt beside the container and examined its surface. There were no handles, no locks, no obvious way to open it. But there was a small screen on one side, dark and dead. "It needs power," Danny said. He went back to the engine room and found a portable generator. After some work, he managed to connect it to the vault. The screen flickered to life. A message appeared, "Authorization required, insert command key." Danny still had his father's data chip. He inserted it again. The screen flashed green and the container began to open. Inside, they found two things. The first was a small black box about the size of Danny's hand. It was smooth and cold, with a single button on top. This was the location codes for Project. 300 warships, sleeping in the darkness of space, waiting for this box to wake them up. The second thing was a personal recording device. Old military design, the kind officers used to keep logs during long missions. Picked up the black box and examined it carefully. "This is it, the key to the most powerful fleet ever built." She looked at Danny. "With this, Victor Hale could rule the galaxy. No government could stop him. No military force could defeat 300 automated warships." Danny picked up the recording device. "Let us see what else is here." He pressed play. A holographic image appeared, flickering in the dim light of the vault. It showed a man in a military uniform, his face tired and worn. He looked like someone who had not slept in days. "My name is Captain Henry Shaw," the man said. "I am the commander of the Rusty Nail. If you are watching this, then we are dead, and you have found what we tried to hide." Danny listened in silence as the captain told his story. Shaw explained that the Rusty Nail had been given a simple mission: transport the codes to a secure military base. But during the journey, they were attacked by enemy ships. The battle was brutal. Most of the crew died. The ship was damaged beyond repair. But Shaw survived, and as he drifted through space waiting for death, he had time to think. "I have seen what these weapons can do," Shaw said in the recording. His voice was heavy with sadness. "I have seen entire planets burn to ash. I have seen machines kill without mercy, without reason. Project was built to save humanity, but I believe it would destroy us instead." Shaw explained that he had made a decision. Instead of completing his mission, He deliberately crashed the rusty nail into a debris field, hiding it among the wreckage of other destroyed ships. He sealed the codes in the vault and recorded this message as a warning. Whoever finds this, please listen to me. Some weapons are too dangerous to exist. The fleet was built from fear, and it will bring nothing but more fear. Let it sleep. Let it die. Do not wake it up. The recording ended. Shaw's image disappeared, leaving Danny alone with his words. They sat in silence for a long moment. He sacrificed himself, Danny finally said. He gave up his life to hide these codes. He thought he was protecting humanity. Nodded slowly. He was right. Projects should never be activated. The military built those ships during a war when they were desperate and afraid. They were not thinking about what would happen after. 300 warships controlled by a computer answerable to no one. It would be a disaster. So what do we do? Looked at the black box in her hands. We destroy it. We end project forever. But Danny shook his head. We cannot, not yet. We need it to save Lisa. If we give this to Victor Hale, millions will die. We will not give him the real codes. You said you could modify them, make them destroy the fleet instead of activating it. Considered this. Yes, I can do that, but it will take time, and it is risky. If Victor realizes what we have done before Lisa is safe. She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. They both knew what would happen. Danny was about to respond when he heard something outside the ship. Footsteps. Multiple people, moving quickly and quietly. He grabbed Sa's arm and pulled her deeper into the vault. They found us, he whispered. Through the walls of the ship, they could hear voices, orders being given in sharp, professional tones. The Crimson Veil Syndicate had come for their prize. How many? Asked. Danny moved to a small window and looked outside. His heart sank. There were at least 20 men surrounding the ship, all armed with military-grade weapons. Several vehicles were parked nearby, and more soldiers were arriving every minute. Too many, he said. We cannot fight them. His mind was racing. The ship, does it have any weapons? It is 50 years old. The weapons are probably dead. Check anyway. Danny ran to the bridge while stayed to protect the codes. The old control panels were dark and dusty, but when he connected the generator, some of them came back to life. The ship's systems were damaged, but not completely destroyed. He found the weapons control. 2 pulse cannons, both offline, a defensive shield generator barely functional, and something else. A system he did not recognize, labeled only with a code number. He activated it. Outside, the soldiers were getting closer. They had surrounded the ship and were preparing to force their way inside. Their leader, a big man with scars on his face, was shouting orders. Then the rusty nail woke up. The old armor plating began to glow with a soft blue light. A low hum filled the air, growing louder and louder. The soldiers stopped and stared, not understanding what was happening. Danny realized what the system was. It was an emergency defense protocol, something the military had built into their ships during the war. A last resort for when everything else had failed. The ship released a massive electromagnetic pulse. Every weapon within 100 meters shut down instantly. The soldiers' guns became useless pieces of metal. Their vehicles died. Their communication devices went silent. For a moment, there was complete chaos. The soldiers did not know what to do. They were trained for combat, not for this. Danny ran back to, "We have a few minutes. The pulse knocked out their weapons, but it will not last long. We need to move." Grabbed the black box and the recording device. Is there another way out of this ship? The emergency airlock in the cargo bay. It leads to an underground tunnel, old mining shaft. It might take us outside their perimeter. They ran. Behind them, they could hear the soldiers recovering, shouting to each other, trying to figure out what had happened. Some of them were already inside the ship, searching room by room. Danny reached the cargo bay and found the emergency airlock. It was old and rusted, but it still worked. They crawled through the tunnel, pushing through darkness and dust, until they emerged on the other side of a small hill, outside the salvage yard. Ship was still at the docking bay. They ran toward it, expecting to be stopped at any moment. But the Syndicate soldiers were focused on the rusty nail. They had not thought to guard all the exits. Minutes later, they were in space, racing away from the station. Behind them, the salvage yard grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared entirely. Danny looked at. She was holding the black box, the key to 300 warships, the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. "Now what?" he asked. "Now we modify the codes," said, "and then we go get your partner back." They hid in the asteroid belt near the outer edge of the system. Ship was small enough to fit inside a hollowed-out rock, invisible to scanners. It would buy them time, but not much. The Syndicate had ships everywhere, searching for them. Worked on the black box for hours. Danny watched her, not understanding most of what she was doing, but trusting that she knew her work. She had been an intelligence operative once. She knew codes and encryption better than anyone. "Almost done," she said finally. "I have changed the activation sequence. When Victor tries to wake up the fleet, the ships will receive a different command. Instead of powering up, they will shut down permanently. Their reactors will go cold. The fleet will die. And he will not know until it is too late. No, the codes will look exactly the same. He will think he has one. He will think he controls 300 warships." She looked up at Danny with tired eyes. "But he will control nothing. The fleet will sleep forever, just like Captain Shaw wanted." Danny nodded slowly. It was a good plan. But there was still the hardest part, getting Lisa back safely. "How do we make the trade?" he asked. "Victor Hale operates from an orbital station near the Crimson Nebula. It is heavily guarded, almost impossible to approach without being detected. But I know a way in." Paused. "There are service tunnels that the workers use, maintenance access. Victor does not guard them because he does not think they are a threat. I can use those tunnels to get inside while you make the trade." "What will you do once you are inside?" "Find Lisa, free her, get her to a ship," stood up and stretched her tired muscles. "While I am doing that, you will meet with Victor and give him the codes. Keep him talking as long as you can. The longer he focuses on you, the more time I have to find your partner." It was risky. So many things could go wrong, but Danny had no better ideas. "When do we leave?" he asked. "In 1 hour. I need to rest first." Moved toward the small sleeping area at the back of the ship, then stopped. She turned to face Danny, and he saw something in her expression. Guilt, regret, pain that had been hidden for a long time. "There is something else you should know," she said quietly. "About Lisa, about why the Syndicate took her." Danny waited. "Years ago, when I was still working for Terran Intelligence, I was given a mission. Infiltrate the Crimson Veil Syndicate, learn their secrets, report back to my superiors." His voice was flat, but Danny could hear the emotion underneath. "I was young. I was arrogant. I thought I could handle anything." She sat down on the edge of a storage crate, her eyes distant. "I got too deep. I became too good at being someone else. Eventually, I stopped knowing who I really was. I started selling information to the Syndicate, real information, secrets that cost lives. I told myself it was part of my cover, that I needed to gain their trust. But that was a lie. The truth is that I was lost." Danny said nothing, he just listened. "One of the things I sold was the story of Project. I had heard rumors about it during my intelligence work. I did not know all the details, but I knew enough. I told Victor Hale about the secret fleet, about the lost codes, about the rusty nail. I thought it was just another piece of information. I did not understand what I was giving him." Looked at Danny directly. "When I finally realized what I had done, I ran. I left the Syndicate, left the intelligence service, left everything. I have spent years trying to undo my mistakes, but some mistakes cannot be undone." "Lisa," Danny said slowly, "you said this was your fault." Yes, when you bought the rusty nail, the Syndicate started watching you. They knew you might find the codes, but they also wanted insurance, someone to threaten, someone you would do anything to save. His voice broke slightly. They chose Lisa because of me, because of information I gave them years ago. I told them about salvage operators, about how they work in pairs, about how important their partners are to them. They used that information to target her. Danny felt anger rise inside him. This woman, sitting in front of him, was the reason Lisa had been taken, the reason his life had been destroyed, the reason he was hiding in an asteroid belt, running from killers. But when he looked at, he did not see an enemy. He saw someone broken, someone trying to fix what she had destroyed, someone who could have run away again but chose to stay and fight instead. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because you deserve to know the truth, and because if something happens to me during this mission, you need to understand why. This is not just about saving your partner or stopping Victor Hale. This is about redemption. This is about trying to become the person I should have been from the beginning." Danny was silent for a long moment. Then he stood up and extended his hand. "1 hour," he said. "Then we go save Lisa together." Looked at his hand, surprised. Then she took it, together. They flew through the night toward the Crimson Nebula. The station appeared on their scanners long before they could see it with their eyes. It was huge, a fortress in space, bristling with weapons and surrounded by patrol ships. Victor Hale had built himself an empire. Danny transmitted the message they had prepared. He was coming to make a deal. He had what Victor wanted. He would trade the codes for Lisa, face to face, no tricks. The response came quickly. Victor Hale himself, speaking through the communication system. His voice was smooth and cultured, like a businessman discussing a simple transaction. "Mr. Mercer, I am so pleased you have reconsidered. Please come to Docking Bay 12. I will be waiting." Danny landed the ship while slipped away through an airlock, heading for the service tunnels. She carried a small weapon and a communication device. If everything went wrong, she would call him. The walk from the docking bay to the meeting room was long and tense. Armed guards watched Danny every step of the way. They did not trust him. Why would they? He was the enemy. Victor Hale was waiting in a large room with windows that looked out on the stars. He was older than Danny expected, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and calm eyes. He looked like someone's grandfather, but Danny knew what this man had done, the lives he had destroyed, the suffering he had caused. "Mr. Mercer, welcome." Victor gestured to a chair. "Please sit, we have much to discuss." Danny sat. He kept his face neutral, hiding his fear. "Where is Lisa?" "Safe for now," Victor smiled. "She is a brave woman, your partner. She has spirit. I respect that." "I want to see her." "Of course, after we conclude our business." Victor leaned forward. "You have the codes." Danny pulled out the black box and placed it on the table between them. Victor's eyes locked onto it immediately. For a moment his calm mask slipped, and Danny saw the hunger underneath. The greed, the desire for power. 300 warships, Victor whispered. An army that never sleeps, never questions, never disobeys. With this, I will build a new order, a better galaxy. One ruled by strength and purpose, not by the weakness of politicians and cowards. Danny wanted to argue, to tell Victor that he was insane, that power built on machines and fear would destroy everything it touched. But he needed to stall. He needed to give time. "What do you plan to do with them?" he asked. And Victor Hale began to talk. He spoke about his vision, his dreams, his plans for the future. He spoke about the failures of democracy, the corruption of governments, the stupidity of ordinary people. He spoke about himself as a savior, a necessary evil, a man willing to do terrible things for the greater good. Danny listened and waited. Somewhere in the station was searching for Lisa. Somewhere the rescue was happening. All Danny had to do was survive long enough for it to work. Victor Hale talked for almost an hour. He seemed to enjoy hearing his own voice. explaining his plans to someone who could truly appreciate their scope. Danny listened and nodded, asking questions when the silence stretched too long, keeping the conversation alive. But inside he was terrified. Every minute that passed felt like a lifetime. Had she found Lisa? Had something gone wrong? Then his communicator buzzed softly in his pocket. 3 short pulses, the signal they had agreed on, had found Lisa. She was moving her toward the escape pods. Danny allowed himself a small breath of relief. Now came the hardest part. "This has been a fascinating conversation," Victor said, standing up from his chair. "But I am afraid we must conclude our business. The codes, Mr. Mercer." Danny pushed the black box across the table. Victor picked it up almost reverently, turning it over in his hands. "You have no idea what you are giving me," Victor whispered. "With this, I become the most powerful man in the galaxy. Governments will bow to me. Armies will surrender without a fight. The old order ends today." "And what happens to Lisa?" Victor waved his hand dismissively. "Your partner will be released as promised. I am a man of my word." He pressed a button on his desk. "Bring the prisoner." 2 guards entered with Lisa between them. She was bruised and tired but alive. Her eyes found Danny immediately, and he saw the question in them. "What is happening? What have you done?" Danny tried to signal her with his eyes. "Trust me. Be ready." Victor walked toward the door, still holding the black box. "Once I verify that these codes are authentic, you will both be free to go. Consider this a gift, Mr. Mercer. You have given me the greatest prize in the galaxy. I see no reason to be cruel." He was almost at the door when Lisa moved. She had been waiting for this moment. While the guards held her arms, she had slowly worked a small blade out of her boot, the one she always carried for emergencies. Danny had taught her to hide it there years ago, back when they first started working together. Lisa drove the blade into the nearest guard's hand. He screamed and released her. She spun, grabbed his weapon, and fired at the second guard before he could react. Chaos erupted. Victor Hale shouted for more guards. Alarms began to wail throughout the station. Danny threw himself across the room, tackling Lisa and pulling her behind a heavy desk for cover. "What are you doing here?" Lisa demanded, her eyes wide. "Saving you, obviously. This is your idea of saving me." More guards rushed into the room. Weapons fire burned the air above their heads. Danny and Lisa fired back, trying to keep them at bay. But there were too many, and they were running out of time. Then Danny remembered the rusty nail. Before leaving for this mission, he had programmed the old ship to follow a specific flight path. If he sent the right signal, it would come. Battered and ancient, but still capable of one last flight. He activated his communicator and sent the command. Outside the station, the rusty nail woke up for the final time. Its damaged engines fired with a groan of protest. Its old armor glowed as it heated for re-entry. The ship turned toward Victor Hale's station and began to accelerate. Inside, Danny grabbed Lisa's hand. "We need to move, now." They ran through the chaos, heading for the escape pods. Guards tried to stop them, but the station was in complete confusion. Nobody knew what was happening. Alarms were screaming about an incoming collision. Met them in the corridor near the pods. She had already prepared a ship for escape. "Get in," she shouted. "The rusty nail is coming." They climbed aboard just as the station shook from the first impact. The rusty nail had crashed directly into docking bay 12, tearing through metal and steel like paper. The old ship did not survive, but it did not need to. Its job was done. Danny looked back through the viewport as their escape ship pulled away. He saw the rusty nail buried in the side of the station, flames pouring from the wound. His $7 ship, the mystery that had started everything, was gone forever. But then he saw something else. Victor Hale, standing near a window on the command deck. He was holding the black box, pressing buttons frantically, trying to activate the fleet. Danny held his breath. Victor pressed the activation button. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Still nothing. His face twisted with confusion, then rage, then finally understanding. He looked out through the window directly at their escape ship. He knew he had been tricked. But it was too late. The Terran Colonial Authority had been tracking that black box since the moment Victor touched it. Danny had transmitted a beacon to them before the meeting, telling them exactly where to find the most dangerous criminal in the galaxy. Military ships dropped out of hyperspace all around the station. Dozens of them. Terran warships, heavily armed, surrounding Victor Hale's fortress like wolves around a wounded animal. Victor tried to activate the fleet one more time. One final desperate attempt. Somewhere in the asteroid fields of Sigma Draconis, 300 ancient warships received his command. Their systems processed the codes, just as they were designed to do. And then they shut down, permanently. The corrupted codes did exactly what had programmed them to do. Instead of waking up, the fleet went asleep forever. Their reactors went cold. Their weapons went dark. Project, the most dangerous weapon ever built, died quietly in the darkness between the stars. Victor Hale's dream ended before it ever began. 3 months later, Danny stood in a repair yard on New Houston Station, watching workers put the finishing touches on a new ship. It was not the Rusty Nail, of course. That ship was gone, but the Terran Colonial Authority had been grateful for his help in stopping Victor Hale. They had offered him a fortune as a reward. He had asked for something else instead, a new ship built with the same design as the old Terran military transports, something solid, something that would last. They had agreed. Lisa stood beside him, her arm still in a cast from the injuries she had received during the escape. She looked at the new ship and shook her head slowly. "You could have bought anything," she said. "A mansion, a fleet of luxury cruisers, retirement on a tropical planet, and you asked for another salvage ship." Danny smiled. "I like salvage. You find interesting things in the junk. Interesting things like secret codes for automated warships." That was a one-time thing. Lisa laughed. It was the first time she had laughed since the kidnapping. The sound made Danny's heart feel lighter. He had received a message from a week after the mission. She was leaving, going somewhere far away, starting a new life. She thanked him for giving her a chance to make things right. She hoped he understood. He did understand. Some people needed to run, some people needed to disappear. Cole had lived with her guilt for years. Now she had finally found peace. Wherever she was going, Danny hoped she would be happy. The workers finished their final checks and stepped back from the new ship. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Strong, practical, built to survive. "What are you going to call it?" Lisa asked. Danny thought about Captain Henry Shaw, the man who had sacrificed everything to protect a secret. He thought about the Rusty Nail, the ship that had saved humanity twice. He thought about $7, the most important money he had ever spent. "The Lucky 7, he said finally. Lisa nodded slowly. "I like it." They climbed aboard their new ship and powered up the engines. Outside, the stars waited for them, full of mysteries and treasures and secrets yet to be discovered. Danny Mercer had started this adventure with $7 and a feeling that something important was hiding in an old, broken ship. He had been right, and he had learned something else along the way. Humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or its technology. It was the ordinary people who refused to give up. The ones who fought for their friends, who stood against evil, who kept hopping even when everything seemed lost. The universe was vast and dangerous, but as long as there were people like that, humanity would survive. Danny pushed the throttle forward, and the Lucky 7 soared into the darkness, ready for whatever came next.